Safetipin is happy to present this conversation on cities from experts around the world. This has been an unusual urban October where many of us have not been able to enjoy our city streets. Despite all its problems, I love cities for their vibrancy, energy, and vitality. This set of short videos highlights the key challenges facing our cities while at the same time providing a roadmap to the solutions. The narrative that underpins the challenges, campaigns, interventions, and programs that our speakers articulate is the right to the city. So, whether it is housing, livelihoods, infrastructure, safety, mobility, or gender, the language of rights is critical. I know these talks will lead to deeper insights on our urban future. I hope you enjoy listening to them as much as I did.
I'm Jaydeep Gupta, and I'm an urbanist. Scientists predict that by 2050, nearly 70% of all people globally will live in towns and cities, and that all of this urban growth will occur in India, in China, and across Africa. In India alone, we will add nearly 200 million people by 2030, 400 million people by 2050 to our towns and cities. But as much as our towns and cities are engines of growth and opportunity, something has gone wrong when 1 out of every 4 urban residents lives in informal settlements, without formal tenure, with substandard or virtually non-existent basic services, so no piped water, very poor sanitation, in dwellings that the government itself terms as unfit for human habitation. To address this poverty that coexists with prosperity, we must act directly to confront why such extreme inequality exists and why it persists. Now, this involves, firstly, in my opinion, ensuring our cities treat housing as a right and not as a commodity so that everyone can afford an adequate home. Equally, other essential services like piped water, sanitation, electricity need to be affordable and adequate. Now, this can be done, especially if cities stop demolishing informal settlements but enabling pathways for city residents at the very bottom of the income ladder to jointly co-create housing options. Now, this means creating cities that are welcoming. This means creating cities that are focused on the quality of life for all urban residents.
COVID-19 has been a wake-up call for the world to renew its commitment towards human health, well-being, and dignity. In the wake of the disease, country after country imposed stay-at-home restrictions to protect people from the spread of COVID. But the poor living in megacities, in congested housing, and in informal settlements without access to basic amenities like water and sanitation were unable to protect themselves in this way. What's more, they continued to face forced evictions even as the pandemic raged on. This is an opportune time for us to think about housing not as an asset or a commodity, but as an essential component of social welfare. This year, let's use Urban October as an opportunity to urge governments across the world to focus on the creation of housing for the urban poor. First, by protecting their existing investments in housing, by upgrading informal settlements and, where possible, granting them security of tenure. Second, by allocating adequate land and resources for the creation of new stocks of affordable housing. Third, by interlinking housing with livelihoods and health in spatial and economic plans. And last, and the most important, let us ensure that the most vulnerable have a seat at the table when city plans are being made and when housing policy is being formulated. I'm pretty confident that their opinions being considered will certainly make for a sustainable and resilient urban future.
The Safer Cities program tackles one of the most fundamental aspects of city life and a critical component for sustainable social and economic development, the need to reduce crime and violence and prevent and provide for safe environments. The program supports the efforts of municipalities by building capacities at the city level to improve urban safety through crime prevention strategies that address the causes of crime whilst involving all urban partners and stakeholders. With increasing levels and types of urban crime and violence in many cities in Africa, Asia, and Latin America threatening the benefits of urbanization, UNHabitat has stepped up its efforts with the implementation of UN system-wide guidelines on safer cities and human settlements to support countries in developing appropriate policies, but as well in improving the quality and consistency of programming within countries. A case in mind is South Africa, which has, over the past 2 decades, not only successfully institutionalized the policy and programming at a municipal level, but has established permanent technical coordinating units, such as in the city of Durban and in the city of Johannesburg, fully budgeted for by the municipalities, and taking safety as a transversal policy of the municipality, cutting across line functions of planning, of the management and the governance of the city. UN Habitat is now working with the cities to develop appropriate monitoring mechanisms, and in this help cities to have more accountable feedbacks to their citizens and to build benchmarking towards the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and the new urban agenda. Thank you.
It's well documented by now, and I think quite intuitive to understand, that the city looks and feels different depending on who you are, depending on what your needs are of the city. And we know that this is true from a gender perspective. We know that women, because of often carrying the burden of caring responsibilities, are much more likely to engage in trip chaining. This means that there are multiple stops in any given journey. So that might be going to the shops, to the school ground, or to the hospital. We know that women are much more likely than men to experience sexual violence in public space, and that goes unreported many times and very often unprosecuted. We know that women have different toilet needs than men. This is partly because they're often caring for young children, but also because of simple physiological factors of things like menstruation, etc. And we also know that women are much less likely to feel comfortable to stop, be, and just sit and make use of public space. The city is conceived as a kind of a realm for the man. And so what do we do about this? Well, a lot of my work is looking at the ways in which we can make this understanding of the city relevant to infrastructure design. How should we transform public space in order to make it designed for women as well as men? And I also like to work with engineers to get a bit more radical than that. Rather than just tweaking what we already do, are there radical new ways to think about the city? And to do that, I've been working with dance artists. I've been working with them to take them out into the city and let them kind of tell me what they see. What are the possibilities for these spaces and what could be different about them? Then introducing these ideas to engineers to see whether or not that there are skills and techniques in dance making that might be able to radically transform urban design.
If the cities are engine of growth, then transportation is the wheels to that engine. That's why cities and countries cannot grow without effective mobility. Cycling is not just environmental friendly, but it is really affordable. Anyone can afford a cycle for their commute. The capital cost and the maintenance cost both are very, very affordable, where women, elderly, or children can just cycle. But the problem is that our city's infrastructure is not that inclusive. That's why, as a bicycle mayor, what I want with the city of Gurgaon is how to make this infrastructure safe for cyclists, where everyone can come out and cycle safely. Raahgiri has changed the conversation around walking and cycling. City, state, even the national government is coming up with the programs to promote walking and cycling. This was not there 7 years before when we started Raahgiri Day. So this is what I say, that welcome change in our country.
Hi, my name is Rewa and I'm a doctoral candidate at the University of Melbourne. I'm an urban planner and I conduct feminist research looking at digital advocacy addressing women's safety in our cities. Cities can be amazing places of exploration and discovery. They offer a unique sense of freedom that can only be found in the anonymity of the crowd. Unfortunately, we live in a patriarchal society where this freedom does not extend to all women. Incidents of sexual harassment and violence are used to portray the city as a hostile and unsuitable place for us. Our presence in the city is conditional, questioned, and monitored. Solutions like panic buttons or wearable technology are an extension of this attitude. There is also the idea that perhaps you can design the crime out of built environment. But these solutions will not bring us the freedom we seek because they reinforce conditionality of our presence in the city. Women's agency and our right must be recognized for them to work. The good news is that feminist advocates around the world have been making amazing progress on that front. Take Back the Night marches and women's safety audits have made women's bodies visible in the public space. More recently, new forms of digital knowledge productions through apps like Safetipin, HarassMap have brought recognition to the extent of harassment we face in the city. These tools are enabling greater participation for women in the production of space by encouraging governments to listen to us. On World Cities Day 2020, reinforce women's right to the city. Work with your local community, do a digital safety audit with Safetipin, or occupy a public space with the women in your neighborhood as they do in the Take Back the Night marches. Let the world know that women have a right to the city.